Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? We had a little technical problem at the very beginning. That's why we were not so punctual, but here we are, live. I can see some people saying, sounds fine, very good. So thank you very much for coming to today's webinar. I'm Katia Valley, Schools and Exams Marketing Manager here at Cambridge University Press. Today's webinar is going to be about cross-cultural understanding and cross-cultural awareness, and it will be presented by Verônica Teodorov, who is one of the authors of our brand new teenager series called Game Changer. Before Verônica starts talking, we would like to share a video with you.
Adolescentes motivados a aprender inglês e preparados para transformar o amanhã? Que teacher nunca sonhou com isso? Foi pensando nisso que nós, da Cambridge University Press, desenvolvemos a coleção Game Changer. E para criar um material fácil de ensinar e que te ajude no dia a dia, fizemos uma grande pesquisa, buscando entender a fundo os maiores desafios que você, professor, enfrenta na sala de aula. Com Game Changer, você não tem apenas uma coleção de livros, e sim uma ferramenta completa de ensino. Para estimular habilidades colaborativas e pensamento crítico, você contará com projetos e atividades que abordam temas globais e atuais, aprimorando a fala, escrita, leitura e escuta dos seus alunos. É um conjunto de recursos na palma da sua mão. Queremos ajudar você a preparar aulas mais estimulantes e a desenvolver nos seus alunos a capacidade de abraçar a diversidade, exercer a cidadania e explorar a criatividade. E tudo isso alinhado às competências da BNCC. Game Changer também está na web, através da plataforma Cambridge One, um portal destinado a alunos e professores com materiais complementares e vários recursos interativos em um só lugar. E pensando em um futuro melhor para todos, nossa coleção também tem o selo social do Instituto Ayrton Senna. Assim, parte das vendas será destinada a projetos que ajudam a mudar o jogo na educação pública do Brasil. Seja um Game Changer e faça parte desse movimento. Game Changer, preparando jovens para transformar o amanhã.
All right. Thanks very much for accepting our invitation to be our speaker today, Verônica. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. It's so good to see so many teachers from all over Brazil and some people all over the world too.
Yeah.
I see people from Uruguay, from Chile, from Colombia. Welcome you all. A little bit of housekeeping. In Zoom, you have two tools, right? Verônica will be interacting with you and you can answer her questions via chat. But if you have any questions that you would like her to answer, please use the Q&A section, and these questions will be answered by the end of her presentation. So with no further ado, over to you, Verônica. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katia, for the opportunity. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon here in Brazil. I saw people from Oman, Chile, Argentina. Thank you all, and of course, the Brazilians that are here as well. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. Because, okay, let's see, ta-da. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes, you can use the chat to answer. Yeah, okay, let's practice already. If you see my screen, please leave a yes in the chat. Okay, thank you so much. So now, today we're going to talk about cross-cultural awareness and understanding. We're going to see culture around the world. And you'll see why this around the world is in italics. But first of all, I'd like to see with you, okay, there you go, the agenda for today. First, we're going to have a brief overview of what cross-cultural awareness and understanding is. Then we are going to move on working with culture in the classroom. I'm going to introduce you to the Around the World section of Game Changer, and I'm going to give you some ideas on how to promote cultural awareness and critical thinking in the classroom. So let's start with this first slide, and I'd like you to tell me what's the first word that comes to your mind when you see these pictures. Please type a word on the chat. Let me see. Okay, diversity, tradition, festivals, customs, cultural awareness, different cultures. Okay, hello from Iran, celebrations, festivals, yes. Well, this is actually what I wanted to hear from you, because all of this grouped together for one thing, that is what we call culture. But when I was thinking about culture, it's interesting because so many things came to my mind, and I was like, how can I define culture? I don't know if you ever thought about it, but how can we define culture? So of course, I went online to our lovely Cambridge dictionary and found this one here. The way of life, especially the general customs and beliefs of a particular group of people at a particular time. Brilliant, very concise. All the information is there. But then when we look more, for more information about it, and we go to the anthropologists, that are the people to go to when we want to learn more about culture. We have culture is the acquired knowledge people use to interpret, experience, and generate behavior. Nice. So I would say that this kind of complements the first definition. But then I got to this one that I thought was really interesting. Culture encompasses religion, food, what we wear, how we wear it, our language, marriage, music, what we believe is right or wrong, how we sit at a table, how we greet visitors, how we behave with loved ones, and a million other things. And I really like this one, because if I dare to say, we all have a definition of culture. They can be more simple or more complex, but in the end, I would say it's everything related to a group of people, right? Now that we know how to explain culture to our students, it is important also to make them aware that they need to develop a competence that will help them live in a world that is connected. We have teachers from all over the world. So why not show that to our students and how we can get the benefit, of having it all in one group, or at least here in our session. To do so, we have to engage with people in an effective way. So then the students can understand people from different cultures. And when we try to teach that to our students, even without mentioning it, because sometimes we are working with culture, but we don't have to say, okay, this is culture, or this is a tradition, this is a celebration. We just teach them things about the world, about people. Okay, we can do that without mentioning it. So my idea of cross-cultural awareness and understanding will be presented throughout the session, of course, based on literature. But I would like to tell me in the chat, what does cross-cultural mean? Do you think these images represent cross-cultural? Please leave a comment on the chat. Do you think they represent anything about cross-culture? Yes or no? Okay, they do. Defines. Yes, it's a mixture of culture, intercultural understanding. Yes, yes, I suppose so. Okay, so let's move on. Okay. Well, I would say that cross-cultural can mean like anything and everything that is for the interactivity between members of a different cultural group. Let me give you one example. It's a personal one, but I think you might relate. Look at this picture there. You see, the girl on the right, the little one, is my daughter, and the one on the left is her Canadian friend. We spent some time in Canada 2 years ago, and it was during the season, the holidays, right? So we went there in November and spent until February next year. And we were there during Christmas. So it was a wonderful experience because it's totally different from an experience in Christmas in Brazil. And why? First, of course, we don't have snow here. So that changes everything. I don't know if you can see at the picture at the back, there's snow on the street, right? And then in Canada, they have this tradition of putting up the Christmas tree on December 1st while they bake cookies and listen to Christmas songs. So for us, it was something totally different because here in Brazil, we just put on the decoration on the tree and that's it. We wait until Christmas. But then it was so different. It was like magical, it seemed like I was in a movie. The ones that we see, like Hollywood movies, it was like this because it was a totally different experience for us. And it was great because I could teach my kid about different customs, about different traditions in a different country and tell her, explain to her how to respect them and how to behave in a circumstance, in a scenario like that. It was really, really nice. And besides being a wonderful experience, like cookies, we were decorating and we could smell the cookies in the oven. And then we were listening to the songs. And finally, when we left the house, my kid got a gift. It's like a chocolate box. They call it the advert calendar. And every day of the month, there is like a small chocolate. And then on the 24th, there's the big one. So there's this whole tradition of waiting and going like day after day and get that one little chocolate from the box. And then on the 24th, woo, there goes the magic. It's the big one. So if you're interested in that, it's the advert calendar. I think it's Lindt, the brand of chocolate that produces that. And then I thought, well, why don't we have it here in Brazil? I mean, we love chocolate as well. And then I thought, they would probably melt. You can't just keep like for 24 days Lindt chocolate outside the refrigerator here in Brazil. So there are things that are just for people that live in cold places during Christmas. We can do this here as well. And why? Now, going back to the definition of cross-cultural, it's anything that involves culture. Here in Brazil, for example, we don't have many Christmas songs. When I think about a Christmas song for Christmas, I always remember Simone singing, Então é Natal. Brazilians will understand me. So kids, if you know any other Brazilian song that is intended for Christmas, you can leave it on the chat because I would really love to have like a Christmas playlist. I love Christmas and I think it's a very nice and happy time of the year. And if you know any other songs, please let me know, okay? So now that we know what cross-cultural means, let's see, okay, the two buzzwords now that we have, cross-cultural awareness and cross-cultural understanding. Do you think they have the same meaning? Do you think that cross-cultural awareness is the same as cross-cultural understanding? Please leave it on the chat. Just say yes or no. Okay. Well, right. Okay. So people say that these words are interchangeable. But after some research, and talking to some people, I came to the following. When you have awareness, okay, it means that knowledge that something exists or understanding of a situation or subject at the present time based on information or experience. And then when we go to understanding, it's the ability to understand something. It's the comprehension. So having said that, I would summarize that in a cross-cultural scenario, first, we are aware of it. We are aware of the culture. And then when we know that the culture is different from ours, once I have the ability to understand it, I know this can be related to my own culture, how this can help me respect the difference, how this can make me be part of a bigger picture of a wider world. So I would say that first comes the awareness. You know that culture exists, and then you understand it, and you can, relate that to yours or not, but you know that this is there, and this can benefit your students when thinking about how that culture could be, of an advantage for them, what he could use from that in their own benefit, and he become more tolerant to everything. Now, that brings me my next question, and I'd like your opinion on that. So why is it important to work with culture in the classroom? Why is it important? Just leave me something on the chat. Why do you think it is important to work with culture in the classroom? Okay, language doesn't exist without culture. Okay, diversity, understand people, feel included and comfortable, right, with their background, exactly. Great. Develop critical thinking, wonderful. Thank you so much for your contribution. Now let's see. I will give you some answers to the question that I just, asked you. Brazil is a multicultural country. I mean, I'm talking about Brazil, but of course, this applies to any other country. When we were living in Canada, we could see many immigrants. I know that everywhere in the world, there are people from different cultures, which is good because it helps us feel more at home when we're not at home, right? So we are in contact here in Brazil and in other countries as well with other cultures, traditions. For example, if you live in a big city like me, you probably see people from all over the world. And when we teach our students that they can learn with these people, I believe they become more tolerant to culture and they become interested in traditions as well. A quick example again. Well, I live in São Paulo, it's a big city, and I live in a Jewish neighborhood. My kid has a Jewish friend, and the friend comes to play, like a play date here in my house. And when they come, my daughter always asks me before, Mom, don't forget the pão de queijo kasher, because her friend is kasher. So when they come to our house, we have to offer them something to eat, like a snack. And we need to be aware that they don't eat food that is not kasher. So you have to prepare for that, right? When you go to Liberdade here, that's the Japanese neighborhood, we see the old people bowing to each other. And this is so part of their culture. And we respect that. And if they, bow to us, we greet them in the same way, right? Because when we are exposed to different cultures at home, and mainly in the classroom, you teacher, you can use examples in the course book with students, and they will start to notice that there is different culture everywhere. It's all around them, okay? And this can make them live in a more comfortable way. One of our colleagues here in the chat mentioned something about people having different backgrounds. And I would say that this will help them enhance self-awareness. And why? Because by understanding what is important to us, what the values that we have, we can understand others much better. once we know our origins, for example, we tend to be more sympathetic to others as well, because people might, have been through the same problems, the same issues, the same situations that were not good. For example, let's take a kid that comes from another country, comes to school, the kid can speak Portuguese or your local language, right? If there is a student in that same class that is from a different culture, a different background, for example, parents from Nigeria that immigrated to Brazil, this student will probably know how hard it is to fit, in a different culture, and will be able to help that newcomer, try to help him to be more close to this new kid and make that kid feel comfortable in the classroom. So this student will enhance his self-awareness because he will have the ability to ask himself, what if it were me? Or even, what happened when I arrived here? Was it similar? Was it different? How can I help this new kid, right? Also, we demystify prejudice and preconceptions. This is something that I think most people are born with, or they teach us at school. I don't know, but we know there's always some kind of prejudice or preconceptions. For example, with Brazilians, when you say like, oh, I'm Brazilian, people ask you, oh, so you like carnival and soccer? No, that's the old stereotype. No, we have to demystify this with our students, teaching them that culture is much more than that. It's not just looking at a person that is from Brazil and thinking that the person likes samba or carnival, okay? And this, by showing this to our students, by helping them demystify that thing that usually come, embedded, I think, in our brains since we're born, we can help them reduce preconceptions and prejudice, towards certain cultural groups. Now, it also gives people, teachers and students, vocabulary teaching moments, okay? And then once we teach culture, imagine you were teaching a lesson about, I don't know, Scotland, for example, and vocabulary about Scotland. You have the culture of the kilt, you have the instruments, the bagpipe. You can talk about the Highlands. So besides culture, you also have a moment to work with specific vocabulary, right? There is always room for teaching vocabulary when we talk about culture. And then you say, oh, Veronica, but why would I, bomb my students with so many new words? Because it's part of their learning. It's vocabulary. You're going to teach them not only the words, but you can teach them like suffix, prefix, adjectives, nouns. You can teach anything, right? When you're using a culture. Now, builds confidence. When students know about culture, traditions, customs, way of life of different people, they gain confidence when they have to interact with people from other countries. So, for example, if kids know that the Japanese greet people like this, and then a Japanese person comes to them, they will know what to do. So they're going to feel more confident in acting in different. It becomes true of their own culture. When students know that Brazil is much more than carnival soccer, and they are confident to talk about it, we have to encourage them to do it so they feel more, they feel safe when they are in a different situation. And of course, besides all that, Brazil being a multicultural country, we can enhance self-awareness, demystify prejudice, provide vocabulary and confidence. We have the BNCC. The BNCC, it's the Brazilian National Core Curriculum, and they have the eixo dimensão intercultural that asks teachers to work with culture in the classroom. So here is a text I got from BNCC. What do we have to do in the classroom? Because students need to reflect about the aspects related to the interaction between cultures or among cultures, right? Their own cultures and the ones related to the native English speaking environments, right? So that they can benefit, like living with people, respect, conflict, and value diversity, right? Besides, of course, learning how to read, write, listen, and speak in English. So let's move on. Okay, and that's when game changer arrives. There is a section in the book to work with culture that was specifically designed for the series so that teachers and students have the opportunity to work with cross-cultural awareness and understanding in the classroom in a very good way. So the topics were selected to present students with different information to help them reflect how culture changes, and the many different cultures around the world, and how much they can learn with these differences. Okay, this is one screenshot from a spread. Okay, you're going to find this section around the world in 4 units in each book with different topics. Okay, that promote cross-cultural awareness and understanding, as well as critical thinking. And how can we start classes with the around the world sections? First of all, it's good to know what our students already know, okay? So if I show you these pictures, what would you say? What do you think the lesson, the topic of the lesson or the reading would be about? What do you think? Can you let me know? Entertainment, leisure activities. So what kind of questions would you ask your students to activate their schemata, to know what they already know about, all this that is on the screen? What kind of questions would you ask? I'll start while you have some time to type. So, okay, have you ever been to a circus? Would you like? Can you? Right. So, okay. Do you know how it works? Describe people, describe the place. Where do you think they are? Is it Brazil? Is it somewhere else? How old do you think the girl is? What about the clown? Okay. Are there any animals in there? What makes someone join a circus? Right. How your life would be? Okay. Diversity. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Good. So now, then after you have, make all this as questions about what they can see, checking the vocabulary they know, then you can start working with the page itself. So this is the spread from the book, right? We have here now in Brazil a trend, like people are really working with text genres. Sometimes it's not very much. I mean, it's not like that much in other countries. Here, at least because of the official documents, we have this work on text genre. But before working with the text genre, I think we should make a point and look at the text itself and the meaning of it. So we're talking about circus life, right? You can explore the images again, you can talk about the title, but then I would say, let's have a look first at the comments instead of reading the text. Because some of the questions you asked, that were brilliant, by the way, are here and some are not. Because have a look, the first comment we have here, do you have animals in your circus? I hope not, it's cruel. So this is something else you can start discussing with the students even before you start reading the text. And you can start helping them develop their critical thinking. We're going to see more about it later. But the next one, hello, you don't go to school? That's so cool. I mean, Kids will be like, wow, they don't go to school because they think not going to school might be nice. Yeah, but we know it's not. But again, people that work in the circles don't go to school. Or what kind of courses do you think they take? What kind of training they have, right? And the one, I don't know if it's the clowns or the music, I never go. You can ask, have you ever been to the circles? How was your experience? Was it positive? Was it negative? You can start eliciting some adjectives that they already know. So there's a lot to do before you going into the text. And then of course, after you start, after some time until you get students into the mood, you can go on and work with the activities. Here we have some about text genre, and then they listen to the text and read it to check their answers about some questions. They practice vocabulary here. They have the think session, that's the one that will develop their critical thinking, right? And then we have a web quest that they're going to look online. They're going to search online for the answer. We always have a video. I mean, we sometimes have a video related to the around the word section, sometimes otherwise. Now, moving on to the next one. Okay. Let's look at this picture. Do you know this place? If you know, can you please type on the chat, where is it? Does anything give you any hints on the place? No idea. Okay, Aline, thank you. Let's see if we have more. Switzerland, okay. Petropolis, nice. Okay, it's a country. Let's see, let's try it. Brazil, no, Brazil. Teresópolis, no. What else? What would you ask your students besides, do you know where this place is? So what can you see in the picture? Why do you think this is in Brazil? Japan, yay, we have a winner, Luis Ricardo. Thank you so much. Yes, it is Japan. And we have here, rethinking waste, lessons from Japan. When, it's not, okay. Lessons from Japan. This is one thing that you couldn't do because we couldn't explore very much the picture, right? The picture here gave like a very hint. You could explore much more. Why do you think it's Japan? Why do you think it's Teresópolis? Why do you think it's Brazil? You can, and then they can give you more information about it. But in this specific case, if you can't work, if you couldn't work with so many questions with the picture, go on and work with the title of the text, okay? And then elicit from students what they know about waste. What is waste? Oh, what are the similar words? What words could you use instead of waste? What do you know about Brazil? Now, what do you know about waste? What they know about Japan? What do they know about waste in Japan? Okay, and then you can start exploring more information from the text. Okay, in this case, for example, you can start working with the text genre instead of just like critical thinking. You can start already working with the article until you get to the end of the lesson for the critical thinking part, okay? Now, so far so good? Yeah? Great. Let's move on. Now, together with cross-cultural awareness, we are also able to work with the critical thinking, as I've been telling you. Well, and why we should work with critical thinking? Well, we can provide students with a possibility of contributing with their own opinion, as well as giving them a chance to reflect. So this is why we say the thinking and why the critical, because they're going to give their opinion and they can also come up with new ideas about things in general. Okay, and this is ready for you in the Around the World section as well. Now, why, I say why we should work, how to promote critical thinking. What we can do in the classroom to help our students develop their critical thinking. Here are some possibilities I'd like to share with you. Okay, so some activities, for example, asking questions. When you ask especially open-ended questions, students can share what they already know and also expand, their ideas, their opinions on the topic. So asking questions is an effective way for you to know what students know and what they don't know, and ask them to try to think about what they don't know, okay? I know that sometimes students speak more than others, one speak more than others. So working in groups would be an interesting way to have them speak, okay? Exchanging opinions and participating. Because we know that sometimes one student will speak for the whole time and the others will just, be quiet. So when you have like small groups, while you monitor their work, they're able to speak more. Another way of working with critical thinking is the one I mentioned to you when we were looking at the images in the circus, and then reading the comments. It's brainstorming. You start asking questions to students or have them speak, everything they know about a circus, for example, animals, no animals, artists, clowns, I don't know, food, popcorn. You can just brainstorm things, because in this brainstorm section, there is no right or wrong. So students feel more comfortable in saying what comes to their mind, because nobody's going to say, no, this is wrong, right? So brainstorming is really good when we want to develop critical thinking in the classroom. Another thing, encouraging creativity. When we are teachers, we tend to prepare everything for our classes, right? Good, perfect, you should do that. But sometimes it's good not to prepare everything and leave it up to the students, because then they can create, they can produce their own things, and together they have the possibility to talk, discuss, negotiate, and develop critical thinking. They listen to their peers, they listen to their classmates, and they work together. So in this way, they can speak more and more and more and shape, their ideas as well. Another way we can make connections to real life. We know that the things we learn, see in the classroom can be connected to life, but sometimes students just don't notice. We have to tell them, okay? So for example, when teaching a lesson about clothes, try to have them speak about when they go to the mall, what they see in the shop, in the windows, if they see like signs, because I don't know where you live, but here in Brazil, when you go to the mall, you don't see liquidação, you see sale. Most shops, at least here in São Paulo, they're like sale or 20 or 50% off. We don't have more like liquidação, right? It's like off. So sometimes students don't notice that it's English, and then they learned that in school. So every time you have, there is a possibility of making connections to real life, do it, because sometimes the students just don't know, they just don't notice what happens, okay? And then you can elicit, for example, oh, when you go to the mall, do you think about the price of things? How would you say the price of things in English? What's that symbol, for money? Things like that, that they can relate to their real life. Well, another thing, solving problems. By bringing a context to class and encouraging students to think about the solutions, they will make it like more critically. They will think about a way to solve that problem. So for example, and important here, you can also make connections to other subjects like math, science, right? A good example, there is no recycling bins in the school. And they can start a campaign, to make all the students aware of how important it is to recycle plastic or paper, for example, and they can do these things little by little, and then they can change their environment. And this is good because they see the effective application of what they learned, yeah? And the last one I thought bringing to you is the comparing and contrasting. This is a simple yet very popular way to have students think critically. And it's just what the name says, compare and contrast. And it can be anything. So for example, we are reading about Japan today, and last week we read about Brazil, Olinda. There is a text here on Game Changer about Carnival in Olinda. And we can compare. How would you compare Japan and Brazil? What differences are there? And then again, you are working with culture, but develop critical thinking. Here, I have some more examples for you. This is from Game Changer 1. When you look at the think part in the book, this is where the critical thinking will take place, mainly, but not only. Okay, you can do that throughout the whole section. So for example, do you feel safe during Carnival? Why or why not? Why do you think about the safe area for teens in Olinda? So if you are from Brazil and you know Olinda and you know that Carnival, I personally didn't know there was a safe area for teens in Olinda, you know? So this is what we have to bring students, new things that they can relate and that it, oh, nice, I didn't know that. Oh, well, yes, I do, I live in Olinda. And then they can, you know, share their experiences with the other students. Now, another one. Do you believe public art can influence people to study and learn? Why or why not? There is a unit on Game Changer 2 that's about art. And then we start, you know, you start thinking about art. Do you pay attention to murals when you are on the streets? And then they go, what, murals? Oh yes, there is one here. So who painted it? What artist do you know? Is it like from Brazil or another country, you know? So another one. Why do you think there may be a link between social media and depression? So this is for Game Changer 3. Students are a bit older, so they are more capable now of, you know, discussing and thinking critically about it. What can you do to avoid negative effects from social media? So they all allow different kind of works with critical thinking. You know, and from the examples we saw, remember the previous slide, we can make connections to life. We can make comparison and contrast. We can work with brainstorming. So all the possibilities I showed you before, you can apply to this critical thinking section, okay? And this is just a bit of what's in the series. There is a lot more. Oh, here the beautiful Olinda page, right? So we have like sign, universal sign language. We have home sweet home that are different houses on water. So the himba, what it is, what it's a society. So you can work with a lot of different things in the books, okay? Not only in the around the world section, of course, but mainly. I would like to focus today in the cultural awareness and understanding, because if you have the chance to work with culture, this is what your students will benefit from your lessons and will take for life, you know, because sometimes when we learn things at school, we go like, I studied math, but today I can't remember the difference of the, you know, the symbols this and that, just for bigger and lower. Well, I can't remember. But culture is something that I learned that I had until today, you know, in my house. We have like the world globe. I have here at the back the world map. You can see it, but it's there. So this is what I bring to my life, and this is what I want to teach the students and to teach my daughter, because this is what you take from life, you know, what you take with you. So here, if you want to know more about the book, you can check the executive preview here. It's available already. You know more about the starter level. There are pages for the student's book, for the teacher's book. There is brilliant. I mean, there's so much information in the teacher's book that will help you with your classes, okay? And of course, you can always reach out to me. I have an Instagram account called De Professor a Autor. As you know, I was a teacher, now I'm into publishing, so I'm an author. And doing this profile, I give some hints and suggestions for teachers that want to become writers as well. My email is contatto.kenver@gmail.com. Please feel free to write me and reach out to me whenever you have a chance and whenever you want to talk about culture, because this is something that I really, really enjoy talking about. Okay, and if you have questions, I'm open to answer them to you.
Yes. Can you hear me, Veronica?
Yes.
Yes.
Do I stop sharing here?
No, not necessary. Thank you very
Okay.
much for this very inspiring presentation. We do have questions for you. A question from Terry Lane, and it's a big question. How can teachers overcome their own prejudices before they teach about culture?
Well, that's difficult, right? Well, I think we have to think about where we are now. Here in Brazil, I think there is a huge trend. My fellow colleagues here, Brazilian colleagues, help me with this one, that are making us change the way we see people and we see other cultures as well. So I think it all starts at home. You know, I know that teachers sometimes they have like prejudice, they have the preconceptions, but this is something that housekeeping, as Katja would say, this is something that you have to start in your house. Because if you don't change your mind, you can't do that. You can't just help your students doing it. So I would say, first of all, you have to think of ways and study and learn, you know, because sometimes there is a philosopher here in Brazil, his name is Leandro Carnal. I really like to listen to his lectures. And once he said, because of social media, everyone became an expert, either in medicine, law. So everybody has an opinion that is true. And it's not the way it should be, you know. If you have like a preconception or if you have prejudice against something, go and find information about it. Go look for it and see, because sometimes it might be really wrong, you know? Like the example I gave, Brazil is not only carnival and soccer. I myself, I'm sorry to say that, but I don't like carnival. And it's fine, you know? I can't play soccer and it's okay. It doesn't mean that just because I'm Brazilian, I have to do that. So if you start yourself looking at things differently, if you go and look for information, then you break that cycle of you yourself as a teacher having those prejudice and preconceptions, and then you'll be freer to pass that on to your students.
Very good hints, Veronica, we like that. One more question from David Aragão. How to approach delicate themes such as religion or specific customs in the English classes in a way that it brings more awareness, understanding, and rich transformation, and not awkwardness, for example?
Well, David, I would say that we can, in Brazil, right, we can approach religion if we mention it as like a science and not faith. You know, what we have to have in mind is when we are using those parsnips, you know, in English books we have the parsnips. You can talk about politics, alcohol, drugs, etc. In our case, I mean, Brazilian people, they talk about like everything, right? So I would suggest you find a balance when in religion, for example, you don't speak about faith. It's not about what people believe or not, but it's about the history. It's about the science, whatever. So for example, we are going to talk about Jewish people and Christian people, and we're going to talk about Muslim people. Fine. You have to respect all of them because you are not going to discuss their faith. You can work with the history. So what happened, you know, why the Jews don't believe in Jesus Christ? Why is it that the Muslim people read the Quran? Why is it that in Brazil there are so many people that are Catholic and Protestant? And you know what I mean, David? It's not about faith. You are talking about religion, yes, but you are not discussing faith. You are discussing history. right? Like specific customs. It depends on the kind of customs. Of course, with younger students, we try not to go, into the most different ones from our culture, right? But it all depends on the way you are telling them. So, for example, there are those people in India, yeah, that sometimes they spend like years with their like hand up, and they stay like this because I think the muscles, if you show them a picture of this man and you say, look at it, you are already teaching your students that they shouldn't respect that. But if you show them and you say, so this is what this person believes, and this is how it is in India, because India has a religion like this, and that. They have the gods with 6 hands. They have the elephant god, Ganesha, and then you tell the story of Ganesha. It's going to be so overwhelming for the student because they're going to have so much good information that the fact of looking at a picture of a man with his hand up, it's not going to be awkward for him anymore because the student will understand what's behind that picture. Yeah, that's what I would do in my classroom, to use this kind of thing to approach them without making students feel like uncomfortable.
Thanks very much for this answer, Veronica. Well, I've been posting in our chat information on the website for Game Changer. We don't have any more questions for you, Veronica. Cambridge has been promoting this material. We will be promoting this semester for adoptions for the beginning of 22. Yes. And I think we have also inserted in the chat box information about the certificates. We thank you very much, Veronica, for this very inspiring presentation. And watch out for next webinars on Game Changer coming soon. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Thank you, Katja.
Thank you. Same to you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.